Hey guys, Realtor Adele, your favorite realtor and investment property strategist. If you're in the market to purchase a home, it's important to be aware of the steps involved so that you know what to expect along the way. While buying a home is very exciting, it can be as equally as nerve-wracking. There's a lot of money on the line and a lot of moving parts. With so much going on, it's easy to miss important steps and pay attention to the fine print. Today, I want to break down exactly what's involved when buying a home. Hopefully, by the end of this video, you're more informed and better equipped to navigate your home buying journey with confidence. Before we get started, there is a lot of information that I'm going to cover, so this video is a bit lengthy. I didn't want to provide a watered-down version. That said, you're welcome to check the timestamp if you want to jump to a particular section. Let's get started. The home buying process traditionally takes around 30 to 45 days from contract to close. The first step is to get pre-approved for a home loan. This means actually applying and submitting the necessary documents to the lender so that they can verify your employment status, your income, as well as your debt. Initially, you will need to submit 2 years of tax returns, your last 3 months bank statements, and supporting pay stubs. I often come across people who say they want to buy a home but don't want their credit pulled. If you're truly in the market to purchase a home and need financing, this step is unavoidable. A couple of things to note. Your pre-approval letter is good for 90 days, and if you want to shop multiple lenders to see the best mortgage rate you can get or interest rate you can get, consider applying within 30 days or so to lessen the impact on your credit score. You can do this more efficiently by using a mortgage broker. Now, please note that I am not a loan officer and not a mortgage professional, so please do your own research before making this determination. Before starting your home buying journey, you may want to also consider working with an experienced real estate professional who can serve as your fiduciary and represent your interests in the transaction. Even if you're buying a new construction home, hiring a real estate professional is strongly suggested. Please know that a good realtor is worth their weight in gold and will save you a lot of time, money, and unnecessary stress. By the way, let me say this. Your realtor's job isn't necessarily to find the home that you will buy. In this progressive age of technology and accessibility to the World Wide Web, it's not unusual for you to find homes online that you're interested in or for you to find the home that you will ultimately buy. So please don't use this as a strike against realtors. Our real value is in negotiating the best possible price and terms for you. This may not necessarily mean getting you a discount, since the price you end up paying will greatly depend on current market conditions and whether it's a buyer's or seller's market. In a seller's market, you may sometimes have to go over the asking price if there are multiple offers. What we will do is ensure that the transaction is fair, that your needs and desires are being considered, and that you're remembering to complete required tasks in the contract that you promised to fulfill. This is super important since once under contract, the clock starts ticking, and there are deadlines in that contract that you must meet, and if you don't, you open yourself to penalties and possible defaults that can impact you financially. A good agent will literally walk you through the entire process from start to finish. A good agent will also show up on your behalf during the home inspection so that we can communicate with the home inspector and get a good sense of what's going on with the home, and in turn, review that information with you. These are just some of the tasks that realtors perform when you hire them as your agent. So unless dealing with real estate contracts is your full-time job, I suggest leaving it to the professionals. This is something that we do on a daily basis. Contracts change every year. We've had 2 changes so far for 2024. Real estate laws and regulations can change at any time. If you're inexperienced, you won't know what to look for or how to position yourself to avoid pitfalls. You also won't know who to call, not if, but when there's an issue. Realtors either have long-standing relationships or direct access to other industries professionals, such as lenders. They know which ones are reliable and responsive. They know which ones will answer their phone on weekends and holidays. And most importantly, who is likely to get you to the closing table in a timely manner. Real estate agents are also connected to real estate attorneys, home inspectors, land surveyors, handymen, general contractors, etc. At the end of the day, if there's an issue with the home that you're buying, or if something comes up during the transaction, we know what to do and who to call. It's important to note that while your real estate professional may refer vendors to you, you should do your own research and select the vendor that you're comfortable working with. Finally, whether you're buying a resale home or a home that is in a new construction community, the listing agent represents the seller and is obligated to work in their best interests, not yours. To make it an even playing field, you may want to consider having your own representation by hiring a buyer's agent. Once you decide to buy a home, you already know what you're looking for. Because wherever you've lived before, or even where you're living right now, there are things from different homes that we've lived in that we wish were different or functioned in a certain way. That said, it's a really good idea to make a note of your must-haves and nice-to-have. For example, determine your preferred location, then select secondary preferences. If you need a home office, only look at homes that can accommodate that. So if a home doesn't have a dedicated office space, then of course considering homes with an extra bedroom or flex space can be the solution to that. One of the biggest things I see home buyers getting fixated on are cosmetic details like paint, color, flooring, light fixtures, etc. The goal is to focus on the layout, size, and overall functionality of the home. What does the flow feel like? When you bring groceries in, how is that experience? Is there a bathroom that's easily accessible for all guests? If you enjoy grilling on a patio or deck, what's that flow like from the kitchen to the outdoor space? Then once you go outside, are you looking at your neighbors or greenery? If you don't spend a lot of time outside, then this doesn't matter. However, when looking at homes, it's important to focus on the things that are important to you and not get distracted by things that can be easily changed. So again, make a note of your must-haves and nice-to-have. I'll say it again, before you physically look at homes, make that list. By doing so, you will save yourself a lot of time, and being efficient plays a huge role in the home buying process. Things tend to go much smoother and you're not as frustrated or stressed. Now that you've determined your must-haves and nice-to-have, it's time for the fun part, time to look at homes. If you are looking at resales, you will tour those homes with your realtor. For new construction homes, you will sometimes tour them with your realtor, and sometimes you may just visit the new construction community on your own. However, when visiting the model home, be sure to let the on-site agent know that you are working with an agent and give them your agent's contact information. Also, be sure to write your agent's information next to your name when you sign in. It's very important that you let the builder's agent know that you have representation. This won't take anything away from you or put you at a disadvantage. In fact, the opposite is true. At the end of the day, it's about protocol, transparency, and everyone being on the same page. While we're on this topic, if you do hire a buyer's agent to represent you, it's important to disclose that even with resales. So sometimes you may attend an open house of a resale, or you may call the listing agent from a sign in the yard. If you do communicate with the listing agent, let them know that you have representation. It's not okay to pretend that you don't. Having multiple agents doing things for you not only leads to confusion, it may work against you and may end up costing you financially. Back to looking at homes. Stick to your list. You don't need to see every home that's available for sale. When you walk into a home, you will know if it's a consideration or not. Not only because you will be referencing your must-have list, based on how you feel when you're walking around the home and acclimating to the space, you will know if it's an option or not. It's important not to be distracted. Simply walk through the home, take it all in, and see how you feel. Note that there is no perfect home. There never will be, even if you build from the ground up. And this is because you truly don't know how you're going to function in a home until you move into it and are living there. And even with that, your needs and lifestyle will change as time goes on. One more point I would like to make is once you find the home that you're going to make an offer on, have a backup choice just in case your offer isn't accepted and you're not able to come to terms with the seller. You should know within a day or two how things are looking for that initial offer. Once you find a home that you want to buy, the next step is to make an offer, which means that you are expressing your interest to the seller in writing to purchase the home. Your agent will complete a purchase and sale agreement and fill in the price you're offering to buy the home for, along with other terms such as the earnest money deposit amount, closing attorney information, the closing date, the inspection period, and if you're getting financing, then of course your lender's information and pre-approval letter will be included with the offer submission. Also, very importantly, on your offer will be a deadline date for the seller to respond. The typical turnaround time for the seller to respond is usually 48 hours. If you don't hear back and that time expires, then your offer is null and void, and you will have to submit a new offer if you're still interested in buying the home. Sometimes if the offer is too low, some sellers won't respond at all. Some agents may suggest not filling in an offer expiration date. However, I'm not sure that that is the best course of action, especially if you're making offers on multiple homes at the same time. If your offer does expire, it's probably best to resubmit or move on to other options. Now, once the seller does accept your offer becomes a legally binding agreement and you're officially under contract. Once you're under contract, your earnest money deposit is now due. The amount is whatever was agreed to in the contract. Usually, the earnest money deposit is $1,000 for every $100,000. However, the earnest money is whatever you're willing to offer and whatever the seller is willing to accept, which means that earnest money deposit, the amount is negotiable. In a buyer's market, you can expect earnest money deposit to be on the lower end of the spectrum. In a seller's market or in a case where there are multiple offers, then usually the earnest money deposit is higher. Never give earnest money directly to the seller. It should be held by a third party, except in the instance of if you're buying a new construction home, then the earnest money deposit does go to the on-site agent who represents the seller. A good rule of thumb is to let the real estate attorney hold it. Some states have different rules. For instance, in California and Florida, there are escrow companies involved. In Georgia, real estate attorneys facilitates the closing and does the title search and will hold your earnest money. However, not all real estate attorneys hold earnest money. Your real estate professional can guide you in this matter. And lastly, your earnest money will be credited to you at closing. The buyer's due diligence or inspection period begins the first day after all parties have signed the offer documents and a binding contract has been established. This is the period where the buyer gets more information on the home in order to determine if the buyer wants to complete the purchase. During this time, any inspection on the home during this time frame can be performed. If there's a homeowners association, and this is the time to confirm if the dues are what's listed on the contract and when they're due. If you have pets, especially dogs, check with the association to make sure that the breed is accepted. Get a copy of the covenants read it, make sure it's an updated version, and verify things such as school information, etc. Whatever you want to know about the home or neighborhood, now is the time to do that. This time period, your inspection period, is not just for a typical general home inspection. Check things like your commute time. Drive by at night and check the temperature of the neighborhood. Talk to the neighbors. Talking to the neighbors and driving by at night should actually be done before making an offer on the home, if possible, especially if you're not familiar with the area. Also, the inspection report is an opportunity for the buyer to learn more about the home and should not be used to nitpick. Major concerns, yes. Things like the door handle is on backwards or a cracked electric plate are minor in comparison to possible hazardous or life-threatening issues. The home inspection occurs during the buyer's due diligence period, which is typically 7 days. However, this time frame is usually negotiable and is whatever is agreed upon between the buyer and seller. I will say that in the case of new construction, corporate investment properties, and bank-owned or auction properties, the buyer's due diligence period is usually determined by the seller. In these instances, there is no negotiation. Sometimes this is where we see very little time frame for the buyer to inspect the property. In fact, in regard to corporate investors and auction properties, there very well could be no due diligence period at all. And you must also submit your earnest money along with your offer, and the earnest money is usually non-negotiable. And this is why these types of sellers use their own contracts and paperwork instead of the state-approved real estate documents. For new home builders, I am currently seeing around 10 days for due diligence, which is fair. During your due diligence period, it's a time to take a closer look at the property. You may hire a general home inspector to look at items such as the roof, plumbing, electric, and to detect any signs of moisture or water damage, as well as determine if there are signs of termite and rodents or pets. Also check for things such as loose gutters or open chimneys that allow for squirrels to enter. These are things that are usually performed by a general inspector. Apart from the general inspection, you may also want to consider testing for asbestos, lead, and radon. Asbestos may be found on homes built between 1930 and 1950. Lead may be found on homes built prior to 1978. Radon can be present on any property, regardless of when it was built. However, homes built on a crawl space or basement are more susceptible to the presence of radon. Radon is a radioactive gas that is produced when the soil decays. The gas enters your home through cracks or holes in the foundation. If the home you are buying has a septic tank, then you want to inspect that as well. If you're buying a home that was renovated where an additional bathroom was added, be sure that the septic has capacity to service that additional bathroom. If it doesn't, you may have to expand the septic tank, and inspections are typically out of pocket and upfront cost for the buyer. If you don't close on that home that you do all of those inspections on, you're out of those costs or expenses. Regarding property surveys, the closing attorney can order one for you, or your realtor may be able to obtain a copy at no cost. Once you get the home inspection report back, you can review it and discuss anything that looks concerning with the home inspector as well as with your realtor. If there is anything hazardous or life-threatening going on with the home, this is an opportunity to have your agent express your concerns to the seller and request the necessary repairs or alternative solutions on your behalf. If you and the seller are not able to agree, come to terms, then you may opt out of the contract with no penalty. Whatever you decide must be finalized prior to the expiration of your due diligence period so that your earnest money deposit is not at risk. Another important task is to verify what transfers with the sale of the home. You can do this by reviewing the seller's property disclosure form. You would have signed that exhibit with your offer. Lastly, the inspection report is between you and the seller. It's an opportunity to get additional information regarding the condition of the property beyond the cosmetics. It should not be used to nitpick. What you're looking for is hazardous or life-threatening issues or major repair items. Once you receive the inspection report back, if there are any concerns, your agent will express those in writing to the seller, as I mentioned, regarding what you want to do to address them. You may also opt out of the contract during this period prior to the expiration date, and your earnest money is returned. If you are securing a home loan, your lender will require an order and appraisal. This will determine the fair market value of the home. Your mortgage company will not lend more than the home is worth, so this is an important step in the process. If the appraised value is less than the contract price or the loan amount, depending on how your contract is written, there is an opportunity to renegotiate with the seller. However, the seller is not obligated to sell for the lesser value. The seller can choose to opt out of the transaction. Once again, depending on how your contract is written, the buyer's earnest money deposit is returned, and the buyer starts the process all over again, looking for another home. Or the seller and buyer may come to some sort of mutual agreement and continue the process to close on the property. I do want to say that when the appraised value is lower than the contract price, more times than not, buyers and sellers are able to work things out and come to an agreement that works for both parties. While all of the previous steps occurs, the lender is in the background taking a closer look at your loan documents, reviewing and verifying what was submitted. They ensure that you're still gainfully employed, that your credit is the same or better, and has had no major hits. This means that once you start the home buying process, do not open any additional credit cards or make any large purchases such as a car, furniture, or appliances for your new home. Most importantly, don't take on another loan in your name or co-sign for anyone on anything. One thing I want to say, also do not move money around, do not make any large deposits into your bank account. If you do, your lender will require a paper trail of where the money came from. If everything looks good, then the lender will issue a clear to close and prepare the loan documents that you will sign at the closing. Be sure to communicate with your loan officer regarding everything I've just mentioned, to ensure that the property is still standing and that there have been no major issues or damages, and that the house is in pretty much the same condition as when the buyer contracted to purchase. A final walkthrough of the home occurs a few days leading up to the closing date, or some people prefer to do this final walkthrough on the day of closing, or at the very least the day before. Usually with new construction, it's done right before closing, like about an hour prior to. And in this instance, in terms of new construction, if there are punch list items that needs to be completed, the closing still occurs and the items will more than likely be completed while the buyer is at closing. In regard to resales, if there's an issue, you can reschedule the closing, or the seller may opt to give monetary credit in order to close as planned. Congratulations, you made it to closing day. There will be lots of emotions and some relief that this day has finally arrived. You will sign a lot of documents. Be sure to read them. Mistakes do happen. I had a situation once where the wrong address was on the paperwork. The address was for the house next door. One number was different. It doesn't matter. You can end up buying the wrong home and not owning the one you think that you're buying. Some things are easily resolved, others not so much. One document that you will sign at closing is that you agree to cooperate with the closing attorney to correct any errors that may occur during the closing. Again, some things may go unnoticed and you may not realize it until you're ready to sell or until you receive notice to foreclose for lack of payment. These scenarios are hypothetical. However, my point is to pay attention to the paperwork. Again, congratulations, you made it to closing day, and I'm wishing you many happy memories in your new home. Buying a home is a very exciting time, and home ownership has many life-changing benefits. In closing, I'd like to leave you with the following. Try to be flexible with things such as location, especially if you work remotely. This will give you more options. Number 2, silence the chatter. Friends and loved ones will have so much to say during your home buying process. They mean you well. Ultimately, it's your decision. Stay focused. Once you find a home, stop looking, especially if you're past your due diligence period. Lastly, align yourself with a real estate professional whom you're comfortable with and who you feel will protect your interests in the transaction. For a free 30-minute consultation, please scan the QR code or you can reach me directly at the number provided on the screen. As always, it's my goal to bring you accurate information from trusted sources so that you can make the best decision for yourself and your family. See you on the next video.